Hello everybody, this is Jason Artiga and this is another episode of Cinema Macabro. Part of my 4-month hiatus, I did an art show back in June, and it was supposed to be a 2-month hiatus. Then I got into a bad bike accident, which I partially torn my rotator cuff and hairline fractured my shoulder. So I was pretty much in a lot of pain during that time, and I was just itching to do a video. Before I start, I just got to say that I have to thank Alejandro Berman, also known as Blue Steel Lamborghini. He has a company called Amplify, and he made this shirt, and he became one of the sponsors for Cinema Macabro. There's going to be a link in the comment box to see where you can buy more shirts from Alejandro. He has a really good array of shirts that you will see me wear time to time in future videos. So this video is going to be a review on the 1983 Urban Retribution film directed by William Lustig, Vigilante. Vigilante is basically an urban retribution film that were inspired by Michael Winner's Death Wish, which was directed in 1974, shot in New York City, like James Glickenhaus's The Exterminator and The Exterminator 2. Abel Ferrara's female vigilante film, Miss 45, which is an amazing. We'll definitely get a future review on that film. Strongly recommend both those films. And it just followed this like thing of people actually fighting back. Movies like Tenement from 1981 and Death Wish 3. And with Death Wish becoming a franchise, more and more urban retribution films were actually shot either in New York or in LA, were like becoming a genre. It's pretty much becoming a genre other than horror that was actually making money on a low budget. When William Lustig wanted to direct Vigilante, what he originally envisioned after he directed pretty much one of the best horror films of the 80s, Maniac, in my opinion, which was shot in New York, and a controversial one at that. He wanted an urban retribution film. He wanted to do something other than horror, which was, he noted, as a spaghetti western in an urban environment. So he wrote Vigilante, and by 1983, he wanted to cast a lead, and one of the actors he wanted to cast was Tony Mutante from the Argento film Tenebrae, and upon meeting him, he didn't feel like he was right. Fortunately for Lustig, he had a friend who was good friends with Robert Forster, who was fresh off of Disney's The Black Hole as a lead, and automatically they hit it off, and filming started shooting like in '82. And what I like about Vigilante is definitely up there with Death Wish in terms of cinematography, in terms of acting, in terms of a cast. You have pretty much actors like Robert Forster and Fred the Hammer Williamson in the same film. And Fred the Hammer Williamson, he may be like the supporting actor in this film, but his presence is so strong. He's almost like the spirit of the film, especially with his monologue in the beginning. And that's one thing that I love about Vigilante. I saw it on ABC, and it played, I think, on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. It's one of those films that ABC used to show during their weekend slot. They usually used to show films, and I saw a really cut version of the film, of course, 4:3. And later on, I saw a really good copy of it that was on Tracker 3 torrents. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, but it still was not a Blu-ray copy. And then I bought the Blu-ray copy, courtesy of Blue Underground, and wow. The film begins with veteran blaxploitation actor Fred the Hammer Williamson talking to ordinary citizens in a gun range. He tells the citizens that they gotta fight back and not be victims anymore, and it's their privilege to defend themselves. The scene sets up for the next scene, which is veteran actor Frank Pesci playing Blue Boy, who sexually assaults a woman in an elevator. None of the occupants of the building had saw anything, and this baffles the cops with the rising crime wave. In the next scene, Blue Boy is out in the street bragging that there's no case against him. He then gets cornered and beat up by Nick, played by Fred Williamson, and his friends, and basically takes him away in a van. It's known later that Blue Boy was severely beaten. We are then introduced to Eddie and Vicky Marino and their 3-year-old son playing in River Park in Queensbridge. They're basically talking about moving out of New York, and Eddie expressed interest in this due to the rising crime.
Here you go, big man. Oh, nice. Are you cold?
It's then revealed in another scene where Eddie, Marino, and Nick are friends, and the Vigilante squad that beat up Blue Boy are co-workers of Eddie's. In a locker room conversation, Nick tells Eddie that vigilantism is the only way to dispatch these criminals in the rising crime wave of New York City.
Let me ask you a question. That thing with the cop this afternoon, what was that all about?
You have a victim, Eddie?
How do you mean?
We are introduced to Rico, a gang member and leader of the Headhunters. Rico tries to set a gasoline attendant on fire because he refuses to pay for the gas that he took. Rico is eventually stopped by Vicky, who slaps him across the face. This sets off Rico and has him follow Vicky to her house. They break in, assault Vicky, murder her 3-year-old son in a brutal fashion, and stab her and leave her for dead. Eddie finds out about this while driving to the house. He is told that Vicky is in severe condition. And when he visits her in the hospital, he finds out that his 3-year-old boy was murdered. Eventually, they catch Rico, and Rico is facing the judge. A corrupt lawyer, played by Joe Spinell, takes a payoff from one of the gang members and gets Rico off in a technicality. This angers Eddie, and Eddie tries to assault the judge for his incompetent judgment, which sends him 30 days in Rikers Island. After surviving a sexual assault, Eddie comes out of jail convinced that he has to take the law into his own hands.
You got the wrong guy. No,
And
man.
things
Wait,
do
wait.
get bloody.
Listen, please. No.
What I like about Vigilante, like I explained earlier, is it does capture the urban spaghetti western. Its soundtrack by Jay Chataway is haunting and tragedy, and the vengeance of the movie in the score. Sadly, the film's soundtrack is not being offered anywhere, and I would love to see a Death Waltz release of this. Robert Forster plays Eddie Marino so good. I mean, this is his best film besides Jackie Brown. Fred Williamson, again, an amazing actor, and he's pretty much the soul of the film. He's pretty much the subject of the film, which is taking the law into your own hands. And Vicky, the actress who played Vicky Marino, Rutanya Alda, is an amazing actress in this film. Willie Colon, who plays the leader of the Headhunters, he was a salsero, a salsa singer, and he had this big compilation with now actor Ruben Blades, who's on Fear the Walking Dead. They have a legendary collaboration. Willie Colon took this role and in return had all his songs being played in the film. Also, Willie Colon, which is crazy, I've met this actor before, and legendary salsa singer, is a staunch conservative. He's actually trying to get into politics, and when you watch his film, he's playing like this bloodthirsty gang member. What I love about Vigilante is that it is a New York film. The film starts off with the rape that's in Astoria, like in Astoria, Queens, which is 2 blocks from my house, actually. And the rest of the film is shot in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, pretty much all through Queens and Brooklyn, and the locations are awesome because this is during the time before redevelopment, so it's pretty much like almost like a history lesson. The cinematography is phenomenal in this film, and I would say that Vigilante is an amazing film to watch. The film was shot in Panavision by James Lemo, an awesome cinematographer, and he shot the film in my favorite ratio, 2.35, like the John Carpenter films, using Kodak stock 5384 to give it that like really colorful look. I mean, if you look at Vigilante, there's a lot of scenes where there's like a predominant hue. The street scenes in Vigilante are very gritty, and the use of those areas is just absolutely phenomenal to watch in Panavision. Panavision is great for that kind of film, especially if you're shooting on location to capture the grittiness of New York. Everything from shooting in a gasoline station in Long Island City, or the streets of Greenpoint, Brooklyn, where you know, it's sort of like seeing a history lesson of this film, because very little of it was shot in sets, for the exception where Eddie Marino goes to kill his first, get revenge on his, you know, his wife's assaulter, you know, and his wife's attacker. And that scene on the outside was Woodside Projects on 35th Avenue. I pretty much know that area. I was actually raised in that area. And the interiors were actually a warehouse in the Bronx. So they made it look like an apartment. And what I like about that scene is just like so atmospheric with the colors and the hues. Vigilante is an amazing film. One of the best Urban Retribution films, and I cannot say it's better than Death Wish, but I can say that it's right up there. I would say go see this film. I don't want to give away too much of the film, but what I would say is if you're going to see this film, see it on Blu-ray. Quentin Tarantino loved Vigilante so much that he wanted the look of Vigilante for his film True Romance, which he was actually going to direct with Steve Buscemi in the lead, and Jennifer Jason Leigh as Alabama, which never happened. But he spoke to Tony Scott and told Tony Scott to look at Vigilante as a reference in terms of cinematography. You can see some influences in True Romance taken from Vigilante, and some of the strong hue colors, as one scene where Eddie shoots one of his wife's assaulters, played by Willie Colon. One other thing, you know, one of the bad guys at film, played by Willie Colon, was done by the role was done by Willie Colon, a salsero, one of the legends of salsa, who actually had a collaboration with fellow actor and Fear the Walking Dead actor Ruben Blades. Together, these guys were like the badasses of salsa. Years later, unfortunately, I met Willie Colon years later, and he is a staunch conservative. He's a cool guy. I met him years ago at a Blockbuster opening, and he's a conservative, and it's just weird seeing him play this like gangster, you know, this punk. He plays him really well. So guys, watch Vigilante. You can buy it on Amazon.com for $12.99 as a multi-format Blu-ray from Blue Underground, which is William Lustig's company. Unfortunately, the film's not available for streaming on Amazon Prime. I don't know if it's available on Netflix, but it's an amazing movie to watch on Blu-ray. You have to see this film. It's just such a phenomenal transfer that they did, and the sound quality is awesome. Go see Vigilante. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any comments, please leave them down below in the comment box. If you have any suggestions, or if you want to be a sponsor of Cinema Macabro, let me know. If you want to make any donations or any equipment or anything you would like me to try out, believe me, I'm here. And with that, I'll see you guys at the next episode. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. That helps out a lot. And with that, good night.